Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Hellbender Vinyl. For those of you that don't know, Hellbender is a vinyl record pressing plant located right here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, doing high quality, professional, top of the line record pressing, baby. We finally got one here. There aren't very many in the world, let alone the country, and to have one right under our nose is an insane resource. So if you are a musician looking to get some stuff pressed to wax, I highly, highly recommend checking out the folks over at Hellbender. Tell them Sykes sent you. I've always wanted to say that. Without further ado, let's get into today's episode. Sit back, relax, and let's start the beats. This is going to be a fun conversation because I love when I meet new people in the music scene in general, but primarily people who are involved with, I guess, the aesthetically darker side of things, whether that be, you know, alt or goth or metal or punk or whatever it is. Because there's always this, you know, impression that people on that side of things are unapproachable or scary and not nice. But cat's out of the bag. You're very nice.
I think I'm nice.
I think you're a very nice person, and I appreciate you coming by today to come on the show. We have officially started. Everybody, make some noise. Millie Dread is in the building. I'll insert the digital applause if you want, or it could just be me. That's fine.
Whatever is okay.
How you doing today?
I'm all right. I'm better than I have been. I'm back moving and grooving. So
Yeah. You mean the weather's starting to finally kind of be a little bit nicer than it has been. Although, you know, I find myself struggling in the spring and the summer in a different way. I appreciate the warmer weather, but I feel like I'm the type of person that aesthetically, from like a fashion perspective, I tend to deal a lot better with layers than not layers. So the hotter it gets, I feel like I'm like more and more exposed. I can't just like hide in all of my big comfy clothes all the time.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I am the opposite though. I hate winter, which if we're talking about like the aesthetically dark would make sense. Winter is darker, but I do not like winter. I revert back to my caveman brain. When the sun is up, I am up. When the sun goes down, I go back to my cave to go to sleep. And I don't like the cold. I don't like having to layer. I know everyone says like, well, you can always add more layers, but you can't take off like your skin when you're too hot. But layers only do so much unless you have like a Siberian like fur coat. Yes. I find like I still get cold and then I still get sweaty and I don't have fun in the winter. I'm definitely a summer person.
Yeah. Are you originally from the Pittsburgh or northeastern of the United States area?
I am from Delaware County, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
So kind of Philly metro area, but not Philly. I didn't grow up in Philly. Kind of grew up the border of Delaware County and Chester County, little town called Kennett Square.
Gotcha.
Or kind of the woods nearby, I would say. Yeah.
So I find that then it makes sense that you are not the type of person that might like romanticize the winter in the ways that like some West Coast people can tend to be and things like that.
No, I demonize the winter. No, it's cold and the snow is pretty, but it poses such a hazard. And like, I don't know. I feel like I want to hibernate.
Totally.
I want to go back to the cave and then wake me up when it's spring. Wake me up when everything comes back to life.
Indubitably.
Yeah.
So for those of you out there in the internet that are listening to our program today, Millie Dread, you are a musician. That's mainly why we are here today. We're here to talk about your music and artistic contributions to the world at large, which, I can describe your music as dark electronic pop with elements of drama and almost like one of the questions I want to ask you, and we'll get into it, is like there's like a almost like bordering on like a musical theater sort of influence in a lot of the stuff you're doing. I don't know if that's intentional or what, but you could talk about yourself here in a moment. Which now, let's do it.
Yeah, no, I guess I'll jump off the musical theater thing. That's really interesting because you're not the first person to say that. Um, I multiple different people from different backgrounds have told me that. And that's funny because I have no background in musical theater. I basically have no background in doing any kind of music thing growing up besides in high school. I joined choir, the basic choir that you didn't have to try out for, so no one would hear you sing unless they were right next to you, but everyone else would drown you out. But I had always like thought about it, and like if I wasn't as extremely socially anxious as I once was, I may have done that. So it's interesting that that comes out now because but I never like intend to infuse that kind of style. I think it just kind of comes out from somewhere.
Yeah. I think that maybe it is just like the musical theater elements may not be intentional, but I do feel, and I've talked to you about this multiple times now because I mentioned it when talking while setting this up. Like there's just like a lot of drama in the music, and I think that is probably intentional. So maybe
I
that's where it's coming from.
Yeah, I don't know if the drama is intentional or if it's more that I'm just a very dramatic person in general. I think, you can say what you want about me, but you can't say I'm not dramatic in a neutral way,
Yeah,
I
no,
think.
I think that drama is good in music because it really adds uh, a dynamic to the storytelling of music, right? And where if there is no drama, if there is no story, it's like why does this piece exist? Why are we making this thing without
Mhm.
the story?
Yeah, and I mean, there's a place for all kinds of music that you just wanna listen to just, like, vibe and chill out and not think about much, but I'm the type of person that I feel like I've been told I'm very blunt or very stubborn, and so kind of it makes sense that my music would be more in your face, I guess.
Yeah. So I know that your background in composing music is pretty new. You're pretty new to all this stuff. You've been making music now just for a few years at this point, right?
Mhm.
Um, when you started, once you finally got over, whatever may have been holding you back mentally, physically, knowledge wise, whatever it is, I'm sure it's a blend.
Mm.
Uh, like, I'm going to start making music. What was it that helped you or made you or forced you to finally get into it? Because it's a lot to get into.
Yeah, I think there was sort of a buildup. I always knew that I wanted to make music, but I was such a scared child, such an anxious child, and always refused to do anything with music because any kind of like music teaching thing would involve performance. And that was like the scariest thing ever to me. Like, not even, I could intellectualize why, but it was more like a gut thing. Like, people can't see me do this sort of thing. I don't want anyone to perceive me kind of thing.
Hmm.
And so really pushed myself to work on that just like as a person as I got older. And then when I became an adult and I had worked through a lot of that, um, it was actually I took my last gen ed in college. I needed to take another art class. And so I was like, I'll take a music class. So I took like Western music fundamentals. And of course, we started out learning a lot of stuff that I had just like learned in school, like very basic music theory. Um, But I had a running C in the class because we would get assignments that I thought were hard or boring and I didn't want to do them, so I didn't do them because that's kind of how I rolled in college. But our final assignment was to compose a piece and compose like a piano piece. And we were supposed to use MuseScore, which is not what I use now, but all notation software kind of functions similarly. And it gave us parameters, and I just like dove in. That was right when COVID happened too. So it was like right when lockdowns happened, and I just sat down and I wrote something out, and I was like, hopefully I'll get a B in this music class. Um, and I wrote something and I turned it in, and then when I went later to check my grade, I saw I got 100 on the final, and I got an A in the class
Hell yeah.
somehow. And then my professor had written some notes for me, and she was like, I like what you did here and with this. But the last line in her note was, I hope you will always continue to make music. And that was the first time like I had like constructed something and presented it to someone and got what I think was probably like the best feedback I could have hoped for. And that song became Tears and Rain on my last record, on my
Oh,
first record.
that's cool. I was actually going to ask, like, if that song, how that played a role in what would eventually become, Millie Dread, and if you
Mhm.
had released it or anything like
Yeah,
that.
so
So,
that was the first song on Flowers on my first record that I started writing. It was like 3 years in between me starting that and then kind of shelved it. A lot of stuff happened in my life, and then when I kind of picked up music again and really started doing it more seriously, revisited it, reworked it, and then it became the song that it is now.
yeah, that's super cool. So, with your, now you're coming into music, and I know you mentioned that you had reworked that song. I don't know how much was reworked, but do you find that like just like naturally you were gravitating towards like a darker electronic focused sound from the beginning?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I don't think I just kind of write down what I hear, and so like in my head. And notation software was an amazing thing to find and figure out how to use because I don't play any instruments. I sing. No one ever taught me how to sing. But I sing. I try my best. And but notation software, I can't read music,
Yeah.
but I understand how notation works enough that I can use it to write things down. So it was basically a tool that allowed me to write down what I hear in my head. And everything that's in my head is definitely of a darker sound. I don't think I could write a song in a major key, like, unless
Yeah, that's for the birds.
yeah, no, I think not that there's
I
anything
know.
wrong with that. It just, it won't come to me. I don't think so.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I am very much in a similar boat where I don't go out of my way, or I don't think I ever sit down. It's like, I'm going to write something sad or something angry. That's just what's in me. And maybe that's
Mhm.
a conversation to have with, somebody else on another time.
Yeah.
But, that's like what I like also too. I mean, most of the music that I listen to is probably a little bit darker in nature, not
Yeah.
necessarily all like, but in general, there's some
No,
sort
but
of
it's
emotional
good. So
heaviness
it's
to, I
good.
think, the majority of the music that I listen to. It's funny,
Mhm.
even something as like pop is like a Charlie XCX or a Chapel Roan. There's an emotional heaviness to that music as well
Mhm.
from a lyrical
Yeah.
perspective. So,
I love pop music. Um, I remember like the first CD that I had when I was a wee lass was Baby One More Time by Britney Spears. Still, and then I made a cover of that song.
uh-huh.
So no, I love pop music, and I think of my music, some of my music, as being pop and definitely pop influenced. It's funny though, sometimes when I wrote Beauty Queen, which is the newest one, I was kind of intending to write a pop song, and I think that comes through. But I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna write a pop song. And then when some people gave me feedback, they were like, this is so dark. I've never heard anything like this before. And I was just like, oh, this is just like what a pop song sounds like in my head.
Yeah.
But I guess,
I find that
yeah.
it seems like there's this interesting, almost like yin yang of like maybe like a Britney Spears and like a Trent Reznor that like
Mhm.
exist in your core, and trying to bring all of that together, maybe where this unintentional musical element is happening, because there is a lot of musical drama in a lot of Britney Spears music, which may be a very silly thing to say, but if you've ever listened to it, it's there. Even if it's
Mhm.
in a major key and written in a pop format, there's some like really cool note choices and melody choices in a lot of her music, particularly the early stuff, but actually even like up through like Circus, all that stuff rips. But then
Mhm.
also Nine Inch Nails goes without saying. Of course, there's a lot of emotional drama in all of those albums.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I don't have two wolves inside me. I have Trent Reznor and Britney Spears.
Those aren't bad wolves to have.
No, no, that's I love that analogy. Yeah, that's
What
funny.
so going back to that first song that you composed, if you said this and I missed it, was it also vocal? Like, was there lyrics on it? It was just a musical piece.
No, it's just a piece for piano, and then I added some strings in. That's
Is it still instrumental to this day?
yeah, it's
Okay.
still it's my only instrumental it's my only solely instrumental song that I've released. I've written other instrumental songs, but I have not played it live because I cannot play the piano. And it seems like a tough one for me to be able to teach myself. I have taught myself um very simple things to play on my MIDI controller, like I for a couple shows I did in an interlude to blend Cowboy Noose into Demon Core. And so like I could play that, but that was just like one-handed. There's too much going on in Tears and Rain. That
Mhm.
would take me years of study, I think, to be able to play. And
Start now.
yeah, I would like to. I can't even type on a keyboard like a regular person.
Sure.
I only use my middle fingers. So like playing the piano is difficult for me because you need the dexterity of all your fingers, and I just obviously have not developed that for any skill.
Uh-huh.
When they tried to teach me how to type in school, I just refused. And then I could pass the test doing it my way, so they just stopped bugging me about it.
With everything that you're doing right now, it's actually really interesting because this is such a short time frame. It's, only a few years, and you're getting into not only like writing songs, but writing and composition, recording, you're self-recording your stuff,
Yep.
correct?
Yes.
You're learning how to translate it in a live environment. And then to keep things simple, you're also incorporating visual elements, because why not? Let's just make it more complicated. Sure. You're like learning so much at like such a fast pace. How's your brain doing?
And with respect, honestly, yeah, no, I see what you mean. It is a lot to get into and to teach myself, but I find that I learn best teaching myself things.
Yeah.
Like I have not watched a single tutorial video on how to use anything in Logic. Um, if I can't figure something out and I'm really frustrated, I'll Google it, but have got I just go in there and I just figure it out. And that's how I learn best, by just tinkering around and getting frustrated and then figuring things out. Because I think a lot of times you can attack things from multiple perspectives if somebody tells me how to do it, that might not be the way that makes the most sense to my brain.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't feel that I've bitten off more than I can chew, though.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing for me to figure out, because when I was writing the first record and everything, I had no idea if I was ever going to release it, if anyone was ever going to hear it or want to hear it. So there was no pressure there. But then when I released the record, a band reached out to me shortly after and asked me to play a show for them in the summer. And I was like, I would love to. I have no idea what I'm doing. I hope that's okay with you, but I'll try to figure it out. And I did. And luckily I had enough time that I could try to figure it out. But it was difficult because I feel like most people that make music are not in the same kind of situation I'm in, where it's completely a solo project that I then had to kind of like reverse engineer a live show. Because I feel like most people, they have some buddies, they play live music, and then they record something. That's not how it always goes, but I feel like that's how it goes a lot of the time. But I had recorded something, basically programmed and built something, and then I had to figure out how to do it live because I can't play these instruments. I provide the vocals, but then it's just me up there
Yeah.
with a backing track. How do I make that interesting? Also, then all the attention's on me because it's just me. How do I distract from that? Have some visuals.
Uh-huh.
So that's how I decided to do that.
Yeah.
Um and then and over time it's always a learning process because for my first show I wanted to be like beside the projector so you could see the visuals, and then I was like, why am I doing that? I should be in front of it and be interacting with it more. So I feel like I'm always just learning and changing how I do things, and that's the way to roll.
Yeah, I do want to clarify that I wasn't saying that I thought you had maybe bitten off more than you could chew. I'm
I didn't
very well,
interpret it
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
But I, as somebody that also has been in a very similar position as you, somebody that has done solo performances with, learning how to work all of the video stuff and the audio stuff, the backtrack stuff, all this. But like, I feel like you're doing it in such an amazingly condensed period of time, and I find it fascinating because really what it speaks to is like how much you can accomplish if you genuinely want to do it. You'll get a lot of people that say like, oh, I would do this if I could do this, or they make excuses, and sometimes excuses are valid, but generally, especially in art, I find that if you really want something to happen, where there's a will, there's a way, and it seems
Mhm.
like there's a whole lot of will and
Yeah.
to make this happen, which is awesome.
Yeah, I think I have a lot of willpower in me. What I lack for in strength, I make up for in willpower. So, but to kind of go back to when I started doing this seriously, because I feel like this connects. Um, I wrote most of my first record when I was not in a great life situation. I had just been kicked out of my house, and then I was homeless for a minute, but like glamping homelessness. I was like couch surfing, and then I found an apartment, but I was living by myself. And some people love living by themselves. Some people are like, yeah, that's my jam. I knew I would hate it, and I did. And it was right after like not a great breakup, and I was living by myself and not really enjoying life as much as you hope somebody would. And so I feel like the music was kind of felt like at times was like all I had and all I had to work on and look forward to, because I was like, sometimes I was thinking, I was like, I have so much of this stuff started. If this just like dies as files on my laptop and no one ever hears this, it's like the tree falls in the forest kind of, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Uh-huh.
That thing. Um, it just it made me feel sad that it feels like it might have been for nothing. So I was like, I'm gonna finish this and then no one will listen to it, and then but at least I will have like made something. So I think it served a really important emotional purpose at that time. And now that I've kind of gotten in the groove of doing it, I think it continues to do that for me.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you're continuing to put out more music, you're continuing to play shows, and it seems like you're just learning more as this thing is building with you, which is really interesting because a lot of time going back to like how musicians or bands tend to work, it's like maybe sometimes they spend all of this time, like they grow up playing an instrument and then they meet other people and then they write songs together and they practice those songs and then they share them with the world. I feel like everything with the way it's happening with you is happening more in real time. So you're
Hmm.
getting like much more quicker response to things that you're putting out in the world. And it's not like you're sitting on things longer than you should. It's just like, hey, I'm feeling this now. I'm putting this out in the world now. And then you're getting an instant response from that. And it might help fuel or I don't know, just it becomes like it's like a recycling of energy and like
Hmm.
willpower in a way,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Yeah. And it's nice to work on my own timeline.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I've never been in a band. I have no idea how that dynamic would go, or if that would be something I'd be able to do, just because I feel like when you're working with other people, and that can be a really beautiful, magical thing to have more heads in the space, but it's all for me, I really like just like having my own project where if I don't like something, I take it out. If I want to add something, I put it in, change it, I do that. And there's no one to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Which I famously don't enjoy when people tell me what to do, unless maybe it's something that I should do. But uh, there's exceptions for everything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is like, I mean, this particular body of work that is, released under this umbrella of Millie Dread, it's you. This is
Hmm.
it's your business. And if you ever decide in the future that you want to collaborate with somebody on something, it could be something different or just a one-off
Hmm.
thing. Because there is a lot of fun and things to learn, I think, from working with other musicians and creating with other musicians. But there's also a great power in having something that is like 100% yours,
Yeah.
because like I play in multiple bands myself, but I also have my thing that I do for me. And that's the
Hmm.
big reason why I do it, is because it's just like I need one thing that I can have total control over, that I get to just, I think this sounds great. Cool. I don't have to worry about somebody else not liking it or something.
Hmm.
But there's also fun sometimes when you have an idea for something and you think it's finished, but then you bring it to a bandmate and they bring something to the table that makes it even cooler. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
teamwork. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. Love,
There's no
love
there's no there's
teamwork.
no right or wrong,
Yeah.
it's more.
Love camaraderie. Yeah. No, I definitely would like to have experiences like that at some point of like collaborating with people. But I think Millie Dread will remain my project
Mhm.
myself.
Yeah. So leaning into the topic of performance, um, as you've mentioned, you are composing these pieces and then you are putting vocals to them, singing, performing on stage, and doing all of that. What has this experience been like for you? And like, I don't know. I don't want to say becoming a singer, because I'm sure that you sang some, maybe even it was just like singing your favorite songs in the car or whatever, right? But like now you're like having to like record your own voice and hear it back and then learn how to
Hmm.
perform and breath control and stamina and all that. I know it's like a thousand
Yeah.
questions, but overall, what's that like for you?
Um, I so when I started recording my vocals, I don't know. I hadn't ever sang in front of anyone before. No one had ever heard me sing except for like right the people that sat next to me in choir,
Yeah.
who sometimes would tell me you have a nice voice, but because of my high school experience, I thought that they were like being sarcastic and like low key bullying me, but maybe they meant it.
Yeah.
Which is nice of them. But really, no one had heard me sing. And before my first show, I did a like a mock-up first show before that in my living room to 4 of my friends and I had the projector.
Hell yeah.
I had my outfit on. I was ready to go. But because no one had heard me sing before. And I was like, I'm not going to do this like at a venue where there's just like people like peering at me and I feel like I'm in like a glass cage. I need to do this in front of my friends just to like vibe check, just to like have that experience. And the feedback was really good. So I don't know. I think I'm very dramatic in how I speak sometimes. I think that just sort of translates into how I sing, because I really have no idea if I'm doing things properly or not when I sing. I just kind of do what feels right.
Yeah. I think that's the best way to sing.
Yeah.
I find that sometimes if you can hear when people are very trained in vocals in like a singing perspective and definitely in like a recording perspective, and I always find it to be uninteresting if it's like so manicured and so perfect. It's like I feel like it really washes away the human element, you know, the imperfections, our unique imperfections are what make us unique people, right? And so why wouldn't that translate into art? Like whatever unique imperfections that may be in your voice is like what makes your voice worth being heard, in my opinion. It's like if everybody sounds the same, then what's the point of everybody making art? There could just be, just let the robots do it. We're almost there anyways.
No.
But not.
But, and I find, because I think when I first started recording myself, and there were some songs that I just didn't release before Millie Dread, I think when you sing and when you perform, a lot of people who are just getting started don't really want to lean into the emotion. They kind of want to hold back because they're like, oh, what if I look weird? What if I sound weird? But I find like you gotta lean into it. I probably look crazy when I record in my room. I'm like thrashing and like moving around, and like I'll like hit the microphone and then I'll have to like restart or like hit a creaky floorboard and then you hear it because I'm just recording in my bedroom. But yeah, just like leaning into it, and then it just like comes out. Although someone at my third show, when I played at the government center, somebody asked me if I was an opera student, and I was like, what do you mean? They were like, are you learning to be like a classically trained singer? And I was like, absolutely not, but thank you. But that was just like so surprising to me.
I'm trying to figure out what it is that the musical theater influence that is not intentional, but it's there. And now that like we're talking more and I'm learning more about your background and your intentions behind the way that you are composing things and performing things, it's starting to make sense in my head. Because I think in a lot of musical theater, there's always characters in musical theater where when you're watching a play, to make the story more believable, it's like these characters are singing songs, but they're not singing them in ways that is like in a traditional song format. So you'll have like maybe like strange cadences or these weird things that to still make the character sound human, but tell a story. And I think that is what you're doing unintentionally that creates that musical theater thing, is thinking outside of the box when, like maybe like your compositions are coming from like more of like a pop, industrial, dark, electronic music background, but vocally you're approaching this from like a completely different perspective that is like tapping into that musical theater thing that you don't realize, but it's there because you're just like, I'm just going to be wild and let the emotion take over. And if things are maybe a little off time or different or go over a bar, because it seems like you do stuff like that where like you'll like hold on words in weird ways,
Mhm.
and that's very like dramatic, which makes it sound very musical theater. It's really cool. You
Yeah.
might be a musical theater fan. You should
Yeah,
watch some stuff sometime.
I've watched some stuff sometimes, but yeah, no, I actually I did like crew in high school a little bit, but there's always so much drama. I was like,
Oh, like interpersonal student drama.
yeah,
Yeah, fuck that.
yeah. So I was like, no, I'm good, guys. I'm good. My high school, I went to public high school, but it was a crazy place, super competitive, and I just I didn't have it in me. I wore pajama pants every day in high school. I did not peak in high school. Thank God. Thank God. That's still yet to come.
Yeah. So with everything that you're doing now, I mean, you, as you mentioned earlier, you just released a new track called Beauty Queen that people can listen to on all of the digital media platforms. I imagine there's
Mhm.
maybe some other music that you're working on and you're going to be continuing to play shows and put out music and continue to grow. Do you have like
Mhm.
a plan, anything that you're like looking forward to doing or trying to do?
Yes, there is a new record in the works.
Boom.
And I I was trying to like pick a date I wanted it done by, but that I realized was not the way I function.
Nah.
Cannot give myself a due date for anything.
Yeah, don't put art on a timeline. It's the worst.
No, but I thought I was giving myself plenty of time because the way I work is it's like 3 weeks. I just like get home from my silly little grown-up job and then I like do music for hours and then just like every day. And then one day I wake up and I'm like, I don't feel like it right now. And
Totally.
then 3 weeks go by and then I'm back to it. I don't know. It's just I work in cycles.
Yeah.
So I can't predict when it'll all be done, but I have a lot of stuff of it done. Um I've made a lot of progress on it. I have like 9 tracks that are started, and that's the plan is to release those 9 tracks. Beauty Queen and Ophelia would be on the next record.
Cool.
Um, and they're probably the most pop sounding ones on the next record, which is why I chose to release them as singles. There
Yeah.
are other songs on it that are completely done. I just don't know how people would receive them as a single release.
I got you.
Um, I was showing my roommate because I also am working on a visual album component of it, and I was showing her the first 4 tracks that I had, and I had visuals for. Um, and Beauty Queen and Ophelia were some of those, but then she was like, "Oh, these other songs are like so much weirder."
Hell yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, yeah." So it's still gonna be weird. So we have that to look forward to.
I'm glad that you brought up the visual component of things because that was literally going to be my next topic of conversation.
Mhm.
Visual elements. So now, outside of all of the audio stuff that we have been talking about that you are doing yourself, there is this visual component to things too. And I think it's like an impressively realized identity. And it's really cool that like I imagine you're managing all of that stuff yourself as well. And I'm
Mhm.
curious about your background in the visual arts. Or is that also a newer thing for you?
Actually, no. I dabbled in the visual arts for a while. Growing up, didn't like I said, didn't do much music stuff. But I was more into doing visual art, but again, like on my own. Like I hung out with the art kids in high school, but I didn't take any art classes, but I was doing stuff on my own.
Yeah.
But it was never for like some kind of cohesive project or vision like Millie Dread is. But I was really into like photography, um, and especially like analog photography, and I got to take a class on that in college. and was really excited to continue to do like film and analog photography, but then Pittsburgh filmmakers shut down, and I didn't want to just bring my film somewhere to get it developed. I wanted to do it myself. But I wasn't about to turn my bathroom into a dark room because I only have one bathroom in my house. And
Yeah.
yeah. But no, I enjoy all kinds of art. I like drawing, um I do like the art for like my merch and my stickers. The only two components of like anything Millie Dread that other people have contributed is my very best friend drew the art for the first record. And then another person took the photos in the booklet that comes with the CD for that record. But everything else 100% done by me.
Yeah.
Even just like the simple graphic design of like laying out the pages in the booklet and
Yeah.
printing them out and cutting them out by hand and like cutting out the stickers by hand. I do that all of that myself. But I enjoy it, and I feel like it is I'm at the point where I'm like able to do all of that myself. It's not like I am stretching myself too thin.
Totally.
So,
Yeah. So
yeah.
that makes a lot of sense then why like it would feel very natural for you to like incorporate this visual stuff into the music because that was already a part of your identity as a person, being like
Mhm.
a visual artist interested in seeing the world that way. There's a lot of people that make music that, and there's nothing against it, but they don't think about like the sound visually. Like for them,
Mhm.
it is only I wrote a song and this is it. And oh, it's time to do an album cover or a music video. I don't know what to do.
Oh, I'm
I imagine
always
I
thinking,
could tell you're the
yeah.
type of person that like you're probably like you got a song like the song might not even be done and you already have like some sort of idea for like a visual component or
Yeah,
thing for it. Yeah.
no, me and my roommate were joking around about like, oh, we should shoot an Ophelia music video, but that would take so many hands and be a lot of work. But like I could conceive of it. Like when I hear other people's music or my own music, I don't know, like see things in my head, not like a photograph, but I can kind of imagine like movement and stuff, and that helps me like not that I do a lot of choreography for my shows, but there's moments when I know what I'm going to be doing with my body, and that's because it just seems natural with the way the music sounds.
Yeah, no, that makes a ton of sense. And it's like really exciting just as like a person that enjoys your music, enjoys you as a person. I would say we are friends now. We live in the same city. It'll be cool just to like watch your stuff grow over time and see like how much more gets unlocked.
Mhm.
I'm really excited for that. Just so you know. Not
Yeah.
to put you on the spot or anything. I'm just
Thank
saying. I
you.
think it's
Me
really
too.
cool. Yeah. It's good to be excited about things that we're doing,
Yeah.
you know? Um Another question that I had, and I have a feeling I know the answer, but I'm always curious when people talk about this. I like hearing people talk about it. So you know, like Millie Dread is a stage name. I don't know if you would consider that a character. You can elaborate more on that. What was the reasoning and decision for like going with like, you know, a stage name?
Yeah, I think so there's a few reasons. Part of it is just to kind of give some distance between like my real name, stage name. Also, my real name is not that exciting. I think Millie Dread kind of goes harder than Hannah RB, but
Yeah.
um I mean Hannah is a palindrome though. I do appreciate that. I appreciate that now. I don't think I did when I was younger, but I could write my name and like position the end so it looks like the Nine Inch Nails logo. I could do that. I could have stolen that, but I didn't. Um no, but there is actually a definitive origin of the phrase Millie Dread. Um my dad once told me a few years ago. He said, "You know, I wanted to name you Mildred." And I was like, what the hell? Why didn't you? That's such a cool name. And like I wasn't even thinking, I was just like getting like fake mad at him. That's like kind of me and my dad's dynamic. And I
Yeah.
was like, if you name me Mildred, I could have gone by Millie or Dread. And and he just like laughed because it was funny. And then I was like, Millie Dread, that kind of hits. And then when it came time to think of what I wanted to call myself, I thought of that. And Mildred, so it's an expansion of the name Mildred.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I kind of named myself Mildred, which is cool. But Mildred means gentle power in Old English, which is also something that I would like to manifest. So that's where that came from. As far as like, is Millie Dread a separate character or is Millie Dread me? I think that's a little bit murkier and
Mm.
on purpose. I think Millie Dread is definitely part of me. Um, it's funny though, like my friends who know me really well say that when I perform, I go like Millie Dread mode. I like switch. Like something in me switches and I get like real serious.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm not always the most serious person, but yeah.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I love the Mildred story. That is really really cool and fun. It's like what a convenient way to almost be able to like take that back, rewrite
Mhm.
history almost
Yeah,
in a way.
exactly.
Yeah. What?
My I was gonna say my best friend, the one who did the album art for Flowers, her dad wanted to name her Gladys. And I just feel like if we were Mildred and Gladys, we would be too powerful. And so like we had to be spited by having like very basic girl names.
Uh-huh. Oh, geez. What does, if at all, like any and you have any interesting like family dynamic with your art and your music? Have you like shown any of your music to your dad or anything like
Oh
that? And
yeah.
how's that?
Yeah, of course. I sent my dad a CD because he still has a CD player in his car. And he said, I like how dark it is. But the first one I did, like before I released the record, I did send him Tears and Rain because, like me, Blade Runner is my dad's favorite movie. And he he said that listening, he might have been joking, but he said that listening to it made him cry. And that's fair because I do cry every time I watch Blade Runner because, well, I don't want to spoil what happens, but um yeah, so I definitely have. My dad is not a musician. My dad has great taste in music and has shown me a lot of really cool music. My mom and my brother though are musicians and play and make music. Um we all do some kind of art though. My dad's more of a visual artist and
Got
so
it.
is my other sibling. I Music I'd say is most important to me, but like we talked about, I do
Yeah.
appreciate visual art as
Uh-huh.
well.
Yeah, it seems like it's fun to have not only something that you have 100% creative control over, but something that allows you to flex so many different creative muscles. Because it doesn't just have to be one thing. Like, even if you're
Mhm.
not in the mood to like write music, maybe it's like, well, I am in the mood to put together like a fun outfit and do a photo shoot, or to draw something for a t-shirt,
Mhm.
or whatever it may be. Another component of your work that we actually haven't talked about, we've talked about singing, vocal performing, things like that. But we actually haven't talked about the process of writing lyrics.
Mhm.
And I'm curious what your background as a writer is, if at all. Or was this like your first time writing anything, was doing this stuff for Millie Dread?
I have always loved to write and I've always considered myself a pretty good writer. Poetry though is something that I more seriously started writing around the time that I started writing music. And I don't think I was ever bad at writing poetry, but it never like I had never like written something and I was like, "Oh, this this hits," or like this this pulls at some strings until a few years ago. And when I write poetry, I often am not even sure like what my point is going to be. It's usually just like I'm overwhelmed with emotion and I just start writing things down in my notes app on my phone, and then maybe it goes through some drafts and I come back to it, and then I feel like I've created something important or something that speaks to how I feel, but I can't really verbalize like what the theme is or like what the point is. And then I share it with someone else, and then they give their analysis. And sometimes I'm like, oh, whoa, that's not what I meant. But sometimes I'm like, oh, yeah, I think that's probably what I meant.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
No, I actually I write in a very, very similar way to that. I find that like intention is so important with art, but sometimes having like a focused intention, like a focused thematic intention, can sometimes almost like sterilize what the final product could be. If you're like putting a cap on, oh, this thing that I'm writing has to be about this specific thing. Well, so if you just like let that feeling go and just let the art almost write itself, that maybe sounds a little romantic, but whatever, art's romantic. You let it write itself, then who knows? Like there's like some sort of higher power at work, whatever it may be, that is like using me as a vessel to get this art out there rather than being like, I'm just going to write a song about this specific feeling and it can't be anything else.
Yeah, I usually will start with some kind of parameter or some kind of
Oh,
inspiration,
absolutely. Yeah.
and then let it develop into whatever it becomes. Um, Writing Demon Core was spurred by a meme. A meme I saw about, it was some like history meme about the Demon Core, and but I didn't know what it was. I was like, oh, I want to understand the context of this meme. So I looked it up and I was reading the Wikipedia article for the Demon Core, and I was like, don't you ever feel like this sometimes? And then I wrote the song. And I find like I find that I'm inspired by even like super mundane things. It was funny at my last show, somebody came up to me afterward and asked what my inspiration was, which is a huge question to ask, and so I wasn't sure immediately how to answer that because there's really not one answer to that question. But then I was nervous too, so I just started going off and I was like, well, Ophelia made its debut at that show, and I was like, well, I was playing Roblox because I was playing Dress to Impress on Roblox, and for a theme, I was like, I forget what the theme was, but I was like, I'm gonna be Ophelia when she drowned, and I had like the flowers and the hair, and I did the pose where you're like laying down, like how
uh,
in like that famous painting, and then I was like, why don't I write a song to Ophelia? I love sad women with four-syllable names. So I literally like I was playing Roblox and I thought of writing a song and then I wrote it. And then I was like explaining this to them and they were like, I don't think I gave them the answer they expected, but I don't know. I feel like, and obviously like I was familiar with Hamlet, and that's like my favorite Shakespeare, but the trigger was Roblox.
yeah. I mean, you never know. You never know where or when or how inspiration's gonna strike, and sometimes it comes from unexpected places. But that is
Yeah.
what is beautiful about art.
Hmm.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Outside of music, art, visual creation, writing, um, what do you like to do for fun? I mean, I guess we're playing some video games, we're memeing a bit, hanging out with friends, I imagine.
Yeah.
Work an adult job, maybe that's not for fun, but maybe you like your job. What is life like outside of art though? That's the general question.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like I am always so busy with one thing or another, and my little crafts, which don't always include like projects for Millie Dread. I'm still working on my battle jacket now. I started sewing patches on it, and then I just kind of abandoned it. So it's always good to have a little craft. But sometimes I do just feel like I go to my job, I come home, I work on music or like do something else, and then go to bed, and then just wake up and do it again, and then like see my friends and stuff over the weekend. I don't know. I feel like I don't know if I have any secrets.
Yeah, I mean, I also necessarily wasn't
Mhm.
asking for a
Mhm.
secret.
Yeah.
The hot goss, the tea, that's not exactly. I was just kind of curious, like, because I don't know. I don't have an answer that's much different from you. I have my things that I need to do to make money to do the other things that I like to do, and I do a lot of them. And
Mhm.
I just try to remember to eat once or twice a day if I'm lucky, if I think about it, and
Eating
then
is hard sometimes.
and just like try to relax. I have a really hard time like slowing down. Anytime
Mhm.
I have like, like, oh wow, I don't have anything going on today. It isn't just like my default isn't for like, oh, I just get to chill. It's like, what can I do? What new project can I start? Like it's more likely that if I didn't have anything to do tonight, I would probably be like, let me write up a music video and start shooting it next week instead of just being like, oh, how about I go home and do laundry? Or how about I like go eat? My brain, I don't know why I'm
You
wired
gotta
like that.
eat.
Yeah, I haven't eaten anything today, just to be completely transparent with you. I didn't even think
Even
about
I ate
I didn't
today,
even
and
think
that's like
I didn't even think about it until literally just now. I am
no, you
fueled
have to
off of
eat.
all I've done is I've had 16 ounces of nitro cold brew coffee and this bottle of water. That's all that has entered my anatomy today.
Spray you with the water bottle. No.
I'll promise to all of the listeners out there and you that when we are done with this conversation, I will go find some sort of
Sustenance.
sustenance for my physical form
Yes.
so I can stay
Yeah.
on this mortal plane
Yeah.
another day.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you eat today?
Oh. uh I had an Ensure that still
Oh,
keeps
okay.
me alive, and some mac and cheese
Hell yeah.
because I'm a grown up and I can do what I want.
That's a real much like your musical personalities of there being a yin and yang, two wolves. Do you find that maybe your your food intake maybe has some sort of a yin and yang, two wolves element as well? The Ensure mac and cheese, the light in the
Uh
dark.
no, I'm trying to think of like a good uh I don't know if there's a good analogy. I have issues.
Yeah, that's fair. Totally fair.
And sometimes I wish that I could just like take a pill and it would fuel me and feed and nourish me as much as like a hot meal would.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's hard.
I just get in
It's
the
hard having a physical body.
yeah, yeah. I just get in the zone and like I don't really think about it, and then it's like, oh shit, I didn't eat today. I don't know.
Are you
I didn't,
hungry?
not really, but
But
like I could eat,
yeah,
you know,
you should eat
probably get
food.
a sandwich or something.
Yeah.
Sounds nice. Now that I'm thinking about it, now that it's starting to,
So
you
you
know,
plant that
uh
seed.
huh, yeah.
Yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm starting. Oh, I could do a little food thing. That could be
Hmm.
exciting. So, Millie, do you prefer like if somebody just calls you like Millie? Is that weird? Because the whole stage name is Millie Dread.
No, there's someone I know that just calls me Millie. I don't know if they know that my name is Hannah though.
Yeah,
But
because I imagine like having a stage that this is like a new. That's another weird social dynamic of this
yeah.
too. Is like now that you're playing shows and you're meeting people. A lot of people, I mean, would assume that your name is Millie. There's no reason for me to not.
Yeah.
So now
My
people are going to
last
start
name
calling.
is Dread. No, I feel like well, if it's someone that I don't know that calls me Millie, like I'd respond to that. Yeah, I'll respond to Millie. But if it's like someone I know and they call me Millie, I'd be like, I'm Hannah. You know this.
Like people that you've known for like years that now are like pivoting.
Well, when my screen name is Millie Dread, people call me Millie, so I'm used to that. But hearing it in real life though,
Yeah,
I don't know, but Millie's a cool name, so I'm okay with it.
It's just like I just imagine it's like new now. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like
It definitely feels
having like people like being in a position where, you know, maybe it's since you're performing shows now and you're meeting more new people and strangers and you're ending up on podcasts on the internet and things like that, right? Like this is all new. So in addition to that, to have like all of these people and these strangers calling you by a new name as well, like do you feel like it's like a completely different life? Or do you still feel like it's you? Do you still have yourself at the core of all of this?
I still feel like myself.
Great.
I feel like I have a very strong sense of self.
Good.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't always say that. It definitely does feel very overwhelming to be like meeting so many new people and like seeing so many new faces. Cause like in my day job, I work in customer service, so with the general public, so I'm constantly seeing new people faces and like learning new people, so it's just like it's learning more faces and people in new contexts, and it can be overpowering for my brain some of the time because I feel rude when I know that I've met someone before but I like cannot remember their name.
Yeah.
And then I feel bad. But I've tried to get over that, and I will just ask people their name again because I figure like nobody thinks that's that rude unless you've met them like 7 times or something.
Yeah, there's plenty of people who I've met multiple times and I just cannot remember their name. If they have like a unique name, it can be easier. You know, like my name is Brian, which is a pretty common name, but most people call me Sykes, which I will never introduce myself as that, nor will I request people call me that. But I understand that it's easy to remember. But it's really hard for me to be like I might be like recording a band and I'm like, which one is Steve? Which one is Doug? You know, I was like, all these normal names just get mixed up. But if like, you know, if it was like Trigger and Funyun, I'd be like, oh, yeah. I remember Funyun.
I remember Trigger because they were wearing a cool hat, and I remember that hat. Y'all got to start wearing different clothes with like something that I'll remember.
Yeah. So looking at the immediate future, as the train here comes around on the station of our discussion today, we're gonna be getting off this train shortly. All of the people that have been on this ride with us, want to thank them for hanging out and listening. But before we deboard, if you will, is there anything that you want to let the passengers of this podcast who are with us know? Any upcoming shows, other releases, where they can find you, all of that?
No upcoming shows at the moment, set in stone. But I am at Millie Dread on most things. I think my TikTok is Millie Dread is not dead, but I'm not on TikTok very much. Don't have a set date for any new releases, but do expect sometime this year a new record with a visual component, and should be exciting.
Yeah. I'm excited for it. I want to thank you again for coming by today to chat a little bit about life and art and creativity and passion and all of that stuff.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, it's been fun. So yeah, go on the Spotifys. Check out Millie Dread. There's a lot of really cool music that's already there with plenty more to come.
Yes.
Keep an eye out for shows.
Indeed.
Yes. And with all of that being said, that is all, folks. One more time, Millie Dread, thank you for being here. Can't say it enough. I'll be back again next week with another episode. Same time, same place, same channel. You know the drill. My name is Brian Sykes House. Start the Beat is the podcast. 2025 is the year. And until next time, take care of yourselves. Take care of the people around you. Peace out. We did it. That was a podcast. Nothing caught on fire. Nothing blew up. We're good.